Hola, buenas tardes o buenos días, depending on when you're watching this video. I'm Jamie Fisher Vargas.
And I'm Maestra Morfin, or otherwise Bianca Morfin.
And we are Spanish teachers here at Chico High School. So welcome to Maestra Morfin's beautiful room. We would have loved to be with you all in person, but since we can't, here we go with our virtual presentation. You're going to have access to all of the materials we're going to talk about today and more by clicking the link in the bit.ly. You will get access to our Google Drive that you can peruse and steal stuff at your leisure. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about what you will get from this presentation today. So just a little background on the inspiration from this project. Rebeldes y Revolucionarios was born when I was teaching Spanish 2. I now teach Spanish for Spanish speakers, AP Language, and AP Literature. And so this unit has really been used from every level, from Spanish 2 all the way up to Spanish 3, 4, AP Lang. It can really fit to whatever it is that you teach. Just modify the tasks that you're asking the students to do. So in Spanish 2, it was towards the end of the school year, and we were looking for a way to review all the grammar that the Spanish 2 students had done over the course of the school year. And I think I had a sub day, and we were watching Night at the Museum, and then I thought to myself, how cool would it be if the students could create some type of a project where they research a person important in the history, especially people that maybe they wouldn't research or learn about in other classes, and become that person and bring this museum to life like Night at the Museum. So I started looking at different ways to kind of make the project authentic and came across the Museo de Cera. So the prompt to the students eventually, after they've done some research on a person, is that the Museo de Cera is creating this new interactive animatronic salon, and they want public input for who should be in the salon titled Rebeldes y Revolucionarios. So with that prompt in mind, we guide the students through this project to where they eventually become the person that they're researching for an interactive wax museum.
So right here we have a timeline, kind of just to see what steps we take to complete this project or unit, however you choose to do it. So we begin with the intro. Obviously, we intro with some vocab. You guys will see a lot of the activities that we do in the next couple slides, but it's just a little vocab that we can offer. And then the students get to do a little web quest where they learn about what is El Museo de Cera, and they get really excited. When I started off with the Museo de Cera, and the kids just get really, really pumped seeing it, and they get really excited because, one, they get to portray themselves and characters that aren't normally seen in, I guess, your typical museos. Although this one was really, really cool. They loved seeing this video, which you'll get to see later. So they start off with that, just to find out a little bit about what they're going to end up doing. Then they start with go on to their investigación, where they get to learn about, well, what is a rebelde? A lot of the kids want to do just really popular people because it's a big hit and they want to be somebody popular and they want to dress up like them. But the key is that we want these kids doing people who are a rebelde, who has changed history in some way, who has made an impact in a positive way. That is the goal. And so the kids get to go on and investigate a little bit about that, what makes them a rebelde, and why should they be in this Museo de Cera. Then we're obviously going to dive into some writing. So the students will work daily on figuring out who this person is and get to document that from that person's perspective, with the ultimate goal of being able to do an email reply, which is helping prepare them for the AP Language and Culture exam. So giving them the opportunity to do something that they're going to see later on if they continue down our world language pathway for Spanish. And then ultimately they get to do this really fun presentation where they have become this person because they know this person extremely well. They've spent time researching and looking at this person from their perspective. So they get to dress up and they get to have this fun interactive museum. And at the end we do this mannequin challenge.
Okay, so with the vocab, it really just depends on the level that you teach and how in depth you want to go. The vocab list that we've used in our classes, since we primarily teach advanced learners or heritage speakers, comes from the book called Galeria. They have a unit on social justice, and so that's where the vocab came from. We're just going to show you some different strategies that you can use to play around with the vocabulario in your classes. One of the things that I like to have my students do is create a diccionario ilustrado where they're given a word and maybe a video or a picture that goes with that vocab word, and they try to come up with a definition on their own. And then later as a class, we come up with our own definitions and then maybe match with the definition that Galeria gave us. So in person, what I would do is print out these QR codes, and if we were doing this workshop in Sacramento, we would have asked you to scan these with your phone. So basically, the students have a diccionario that will have the terms manifestante, científico, pacifista, activista, and as they scan the QR codes, they're seeing images or videos and creating their definitions. And then, like I said, we would take that paper back into class and as a class come up with definitions. Another activity that the students love is sillas musicales. So this is musical chairs with a twist. It takes a little bit of prep ahead of time, but basically after you've introduced the vocabulario and students are comfortable with it, you take the definitions of the vocabulario, the palabras de vocabulario. This could be the terms from Galeria or the terms that the class came up with. And you cut these little pieces of paper out and just place them randomly around the classroom. I tape them to desks, walls, anywhere the students can see. You play music, and as the music's playing, the students have to move around the classroom. As soon as you stop the music, the students have to sit down. And they have a piece of paper that's numbered. For example, this goes all the way to 20, so they would have a list of 1 to 20. And if I'm sitting in this desk, but I can see not only the paper definition that's on my desk, but on this desk and that desk and the board, I'm just trying as fast as I can to write down as many palabras de vocabulario in the time that the music's off. When the music starts again, you have the students stand up, move around the classroom. The biggest rule here is that they have to keep moving. They can't dance in circles around the one that they need. Get some upbeat music going. They have a really good time. And you can either do this as a timed activity or the first person to get all 20 first wins and the game's over. So the students have a lot of fun with this, and it just kind of gets them, instead of filling out a worksheet or matching, just up and moving, which we all definitely need. Some other things, classic, some Quizlet. You can play Quizlet Live. You can play Kahoot. Taboo is a fun one. Taboo takes a little bit of prep, and I'm sorry I don't have an example for you right now, but you would have you'd have two Google slide decks. Maestra Morfin has half of the vocab words. I have half the vocab words, and so the objective of the game is that if I'm trying to get her to guess manifestante, I'm trying to use as many words as I can to describe manifestante until she guesses it, and then I change the slide and it might give me pacifista. So then I would use my slide to describe to her to get it, and then after so much time has passed, then the roles switch. So there's a lot of different things that you could do with the vocab, and then just depending on the level, you can adjust the complexity of the words and the task that you ask the students to do.
I didn't realize it.
Okay, so if you click into the bit.ly and you're in the Google Classroom, the Google folder, under vocabulario, so this is the whole folder. If you go under intro and then vocabulario, you're gonna find the list that you can use. And I'm sorry, I said it was from Galeria, but it's actually from Imagina. But Galeria also has a unit on social justice. So really you can just pick and pull vocab from whatever text you're using or come up with your own list. We just kind of felt like, especially with Spanish speakers, they have a lot of this vocab, but sometimes they don't always know the term like manifestante. And so it just gives them something to work with, or, like our class is mixed. So we have some high level Hispanohablantes, and we have some students, for example, in AP language that come from Spanish 3. This just kind of helps level the playing field. So you have access to all of this, which is in on our Google Drive folder. Okay, so after you do the vocabulario and students are ready to move on, we're kind of still in the introduction part. And so we get into what is a rebelde y revolucionario. As Bianca was saying, sometimes students want to research people and portray people that they find really entertaining and really interesting, which isn't a bad thing, but we have to make sure that, well, that it goes with Rebelde y Revolucionario, the Salon, because that's what the museo is asking for, but also, like, even though Chapo Guzman has done a lot for his community, like, do we really want students to be learning about him and portraying him in school? So some of the things that we do to introduce the idea of what makes a person a rebelde or revolucionario is talking about those definitions with the students. I learned this technique, entrevista carrusel, at a CLTA Jamboree, and I loved it. And I use this for many other activities in my classroom. But the idea is you come up with 4 questions and you put them in this document. So, for example, the first one, ¿cuáles son las responsabilidades que tiene un individuo con la sociedad? And you can see here this is amarillo. So I would print this first page on a yellow piece of paper. And then the next question gets printed on a blue piece of paper. And so forth. So you end up having 4 different questions on 4 different colored pieces of paper. So if I have the pink paper and my partner or someone in the class has the green paper, we each have different questions. We're given a couple minutes to write our answer to that question. And then what you do is you ask students to pair up based on the color of their paper. So in my classroom, I will have one of each color paper on the front board, and I'll say, okay, verde con amarillo y azul con rosita, and the students have a visual. They lift up their paper of who they're trying to find their partner, chocalas, their partners, right? And so I'll ask my question to my partner, ¿por cuáles causas estarías tú dispuesto de luchar? And if my partner is amarillo, she's going to give me her answer, and I'm writing down everything she's saying. We're not having a conversation yet. It's she's speaking, I'm interpreting, and I'm taking notes. And then she'll do the same with me, and depending on how much time, usually I give kids 2 to 3 minutes, maybe more depending on the level for the activity. If there's time, then I can give my opinion, and we can have a conversation about it. But it's really more of just hearing what other people have to say and getting ready for this conversation. So then after that's done, I switch up the posters. I'm really sorry, guys, if this is hard to follow or imagine, but such is digital Zoom presentation. But anyways, you eventually rotate through so that every person has met with someone that has a different question, and then bring it all back for a class discussion. That just gets their mind flowing, thinking about what makes somebody rebelde or revolucionario. Another thing that we do once students have vocabulary and are ready to describe, this is one of my favorite activities. You give everybody, I do have this one. You prep folders with half sheets of paper that have half of an image. And so you prep enough so that everybody in the class gets one. But you can see that in this folder, I have half of an image of AOC. Okay? And then someone else might get an image of Celia Cruz or Rigoberto Menchú or Fidel Castro. Of course, these are all empty. And so everybody gets their folder, and they have 30 seconds to memorize what's on the photo. And sometimes they know who these people are, and sometimes they have no clue. But you only give them 30 seconds. They have to memorize it. They have to close their folder, leave it on their desk, and then they have to walk around the class and try to find a partner who's got the other half. So I might tell my partner, una bandera americana en el fondo, una mujer joven, right? And then she might say, oh no, I have a dude with like balas and a sombrero. So we go and find our partners. Eventually, when I think I found my partner, we'll go get our folders, we'll match them up, and if they're a match, we sit down and we're given a prompt to research who that person is, just to kind of get some really basic info. What's kind of fun about this is like you find the photos and they're all in the folder for you just to print out and wait. But you know, you'll have Pancho Villa and Emiliano Zapata. So there's some photos that are kind of similar. And so it really does make it like you have to describe every detail as possible with that photo. So the idea here is like somebody might not know anyone they consider to be rebelde or revolucionario. And with this activity, we're giving the class a list of 10 to 15 people that they can start with, just presenting some really basic information about who these people are. Also, as Bianca mentioned, we start with the Museo de Cera web quest. What's this? This is the lista de Rebeldes y Revolucionarios. This is just a resource that was made for students to kind of look at to get an idea of who they might want to nominate or who they might want to research for this project. But they do the Museo de Cera web quest just to get to know more about the Museo de Cera. That they're going to get the prompt that this particular museum is looking for nominations. So you click on this link here and it takes you to the website, and all of these are designed, all of these are the tabs, right? Información básica, historia, and as they click through, they just get to learn a little bit more about the museo. And then here for some adjective practice, they get to describe some of the things that they see and take notes on their observations. So just step by step, working through what's a rebelde revolucionario, where is the museum located, what is it like, just to kind of really get in their head who should they be nominating for the new salon. The last thing that I'm going to talk about, and this is another kind of vocab recap, but also could be once they've learned about some of the Rebeldes y Revolucionarios, just to kind of get them describing, and it's called adjective hot potato. You could do it with adjectives, you could do it with vocab, you could do it with, you know, just say as many things about this person as you can. And basically how it works is you go to your Google slide. Oh, this is the it. And you publish it to the web. So in a Google slide, for example, just this random one, if you go to File, and then there's something that says Publish to the web. Download. Nope. Yes. Make a copy. Oh, here it is. Publish to the web. I don't know why this one won't work. Maybe because, I don't know. Anyways, you publish it to the web, and so what it'll do is it'll change the slides for you automatically. So when you open it, the slides will start going, and then you're going to have to do your best to describe the slides and not be the last one talking when it's like changes, and we're going to demonstrate it for you. So we put adjective, but it doesn't have to be adjectives. Let's just describe what we see on the slides. We'll see how it goes. I'll go first.
This one's present.
Yeah, so un hombre con un bigote negro.
Una casita que se va a derrumbar.
El hombre tiene muchas balas.
Un hombre mirando.
So in that case, she loses because she's still talking, so I get the point.
Una mujer que tiene un vestuario muy diferente.
Tiene muchos libros, so she gets the point.
Una rubia, ojos azules.
Una mujer muy bonita con labios rojos.
En el fondo hay oro.
Ella. So you see, and then it just keeps going and going, and the students keep track of their points, and it just really is a fun way for them to practice describing the different photos. Okay.
That was fun.
That was fun.
Let's do it again.
Yeah, and that activity we give credit to our friend and mentor and colleague, Jennifer Salas, that showed us how to do that, and we love her. Okay.
All right, so after they've done, they've kind of figured out what constitutes a rebelde, and they're figuring out who they want. It's time to dive into the investigation of the specific person because they know what a rebelde is, so now they need to actually become that person. So the first process of that is definitely just getting to know the basic information about that person. So this is something that Senora Vargas actually created. These are some Teachers Pay Teachers sites that you can look at that also have, I'll show you what it looks like. But they're just some biographies that you can purchase if you want, or you can just kind of map out so that kids aren't just researching like, what is it called? Like a random website. So they can go on these, but Senora Vargas actually made one. This is the one I actually use with my students once they had their Rebeldes chosen. And it's really nice because this is like the day one thing of investigación, where they can just get to know the basics of these students, or of these, Rebeldes. So they can go ahead and do this and start with that. And then another thing that I really liked and that I haven't had the chance to use, but I'm planning to use if I ever do this project again, it would be una hoja de referencia. So every time they're researching, it's somewhere where they can start building the library of all the different sitios or the different sites that they visited. And it basically is a place where they can go through and just leave their resources so they can go back and look at them, or just basically something that you can use later on if a student is stuck and they're like, I don't know where to search, I don't know where to look. Oh, you got Dolores Huerta. Here are some sites that can kind of help you out to kind of see or to kind of use instead of going to your automatic. What's that one website that all the kids go to? Wikipedia. Yeah, Wikipedia. That's what it is. Instead of just going there. And so I really, really like this. It's really useful, and also it's kind of like show your work, show what you did. One thing that I did that worked really well with me was un diario. So my students, every single time that we opened up for investigación del personaje, or the person that they were doing, they would keep a little diary. So my kids already kept a composition notebook with them. So every single day we did something, it was, they would have to write, like the last 15, 20 minutes of class, they would have to write exactly what they learned about that person, and they would have to just document it, but not only write about them, it was write as if they were that person. So it was really, really neat to see the kids kind of like, hey, I'm going to watch a video on Selena and her concert. And then they had to switch the role and they had to become that person. And then they had to write like, hoy presenté en Corpus Christi, and they had to pretend to be that person when they were doing their diary inserts. One thing I think would be really useful, actually looking back, is scaffolding the activity a little bit more. So one thing we were thinking is maybe adding in, today we're going to research, we're going to research la niñez, juventud, and maybe starting off there so that kids have a little bit more direction. And then maybe another day we're going to go and we're going to have another prompt that students can research, like a major event, something that fue un fracaso, something that that really impacted that person, that maybe it was a negative in their life, but it impacted them. And so each day just having a different topic for what they would write on, but always thinking back to talk as if they are that person, from the perspective of that person, not in the third person.
Okay, so after students have had the time in class to research the Rebelde or Revolucionario, it's time to write, and it's time for them to show us what they know. A strategy that I really like for in-class writing is something that I learned from Martina Bex at a workshop she did in our area a few years ago, and it's the Escritura 1-3-10. And how the Escritura 1-3-10 goes, it's a guided quick write, and students have to write for 1 minute, then 3 minutes, then 10 minutes, and each time they start writing, they have to rewrite what they wrote in the 1 or 3 minutes, with the purpose of trying to make it better. And why I like using this is because it's guided and it gives kids think time, but it's also an in-class assignment, so you get a chance to see a little snapshot of what their proficiency looks like before we dig into the email reply. So we're gonna try it, and this might be weird, and if you want to just skip ahead, you can. But the idea is, like, this is not the email reply yet. It really is like a show what you know, write down everything you've been doing research for a week or a week and a half, depending on how much time you want to give them. Like, you need to know something and I want to see it. So we would put this prompt, who do you consider to be a rebelde or revolucionario? Show us what you know, show me what you know, and be specific. And so the timer starts, and it's a 1 minute timer. And so you're going to get a piece of paper and a pen. Do it. Let's do it. If we're going to ask you to do it, we'll do it too, because everything on Zoom is awkward anyway. I guess this isn't even Zoom, but whatever. And so the 1 minute, it's really short, but it just kind of gives students a second to focus on what they're trying to say. So I'm going to put the timer. You got your pen, you got your paper, and so you're going to answer this prompt. Who do you consider to be a rebelde o revolucionario? A la one, a la two, a la 1, 2, 3. Pues en español.
Oh, okay. I think it's thinking.
Oh, okay. All right. There's still time. Okay.
As soon as you said two, now I realize why.
Okay.
I'm like, now I realize why I did that.
So now what you're going to do is you're going to count your words. So how many words were you able to write in 1 minute?
Okay. Vivo despacio.
I just wrote gibberish. So I wrote 48 words in 1 minute.
35.
35. And so, like, usually what I'll do is I'll ask students to volunteer because it's just kind of nice to see where students are at. And so the next thing you ask the students to do is, based on what you wrote in 1 minute, how many words do you think you can write in 10 minutes? And yes, we're going to do a 3 minute write, but our goal is the end goal. So in 10 minutes, in how many minutes do you think you could write? And you have them write their goal on their paper. So I'll say like 200 words.
Yo digo 115.
Muy bien. And you have them write their goal really big on the top. And so then the next part is a little tricky, and sometimes it takes students practice to really understand how to do this right. But we're going to write for 3 minutes. And so you're going to leave a space. And the point is, you're not just going to continue. So, like, my last sentence was, what did you write about?
Selena.
Yo también. So if I wrote, my last sentence was, el grupo se llamaba Los Dinos, Selena cantaba, su hermana tocaba la batería y. So I'm not going to continue. I'm not going to say el hermano, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to rewrite my 48 words before I can continue. This serves a couple purposes. First, it kind of reorients the student in their writing, but it also gets them to focus maybe on some mistakes that they made, missing accent marks, spelling. And what we always tell our students too is to focus on transition words. right? So we have in our classroom posters of transition words, vocabulario para escritura académica, transiciones. Oh yeah,
blue, opposite. No, yeah, there it is.
That blue poster back there, it says vocabulario para contar un cuento. So it will tell students, all right, in your rewrite, in addition to maybe rearranging how you started or fixing some errors, we'd like for you to add in one palabra de transición, right? Because the goal is also to make it better. Like I kind of just rambled just to get my thoughts straight, but now when I redo my 3 minute, like I might use some of these same ideas, but restructure it in a way that it's not just random facts about Selena, but an organized writing. And sometimes they just keep random facts, and that's cool because this is kind of like our rough draft for the email reply. So then you start the timer 3 minutes, and they rewrite. I'm not going to make us do that because I feel like that minute was. Now I know why my students go, ugh, and I'm like, escritura!
Now I know why they flinch every time that thing goes off.
But anyway, so you do the 3 minutes, and then kind of the same thing. They count their words, and this is my favorite part because after 3 minutes, students usually realize that they can write way more than they thought they could, and so sometimes they need to adjust their goal. So if a student wrote 15 words in 1 minute and set their original goal as 150, and then they write almost 50 words in 3, they kind of get to reflect and think like, all right, I can actually do more, and they adjust their goal. And then after 10 minutes, sometimes students even realize that they supersede what they thought they were going to be able to write in 10 minutes. And like I said, it's always with the intent of making the writing better, making it more organized, honing in. I tell the students all the time, like you might get to a point where 213 words is your max for 10 minutes. You can't write anything faster. So focus on writing something more quality in 10 minutes and then adding on to it later. Because really what the 10-minute write serves us as a snapshot of what a student can do in the moment, but it also, gives students something tangible that they can use when we move into the email reply. So they're going to get a prompt from the Museo de Cera that's going to be styled after the email reply from the AP language exam. And it's basically going to say something along the lines of what we're going to ask them to not fill out a form, right? The real Museo de Cera website has a comments page. And so we have a Google form that's modeled after that comments page, and the students are going to fill that out, nominating their Rebelde or Revolucionario, the one that they've been researching. So then they get a response from Museo de Cera that's like, hey, we're so happy that you filled out that form. We're really excited about the new salon that we're opening up, and ask for more details about the person of why that person should be in the Salon of Rebeldes y Revolucionarios. And so they take that prompt and they respond to the Museo de Cera, focusing on the use of formal Spanish, academic language, and hitting this of why the person, this isn't a biography. We're not going to say, Selena Quintanilla nació, you got to get down to the real, the nitty gritty of why this person deserves to be in the Salon. And it gets them that practice for the AP language test.
Which is why this is really helpful, I think.
Yeah.
To help prep them. And they have they have something to look off.
They can look back on it. And it's okay, do I really need to say that she was in a group called Selena y los Vinos? No, but I can say that group changed Tejano music forever.
Yeah.
And left an impact.
And I think it just gives them also direction of I don't have to just write an email. Now I have something to look at.
Yeah. So it's a really scaffolded way to get them to write. About the fondos.
Okay. So after they've done all the writing, all the investigation, everything's done, we do some really, really fun things where we have some examples right here of past fondos that the students have done. Actually, let me get on the camera. So these are some past fondos where the kids just decorate their backgrounds because when they come up to their set in Museo de Cera, they're going to be standing in front of these and they're going to be presenting, or not presenting, but doing they're going to become their person. So they're going to be standing in front of these. So they'll get to decorate these and create these, and you can kind of see some of these examples. They're great examples. The kids have a lot of fun doing these. And so their fondo is basically just their background to show who they are and give a little bit more for their presentation. So those are some of those. So I'm actually going to come back on down over here. All right, so, and one thing that the webcast actually showed, and when they saw the Museo de Cera, they have these really elaborate backgrounds, and so that's where the fondos came into. And so when they present, it's just really, really fun because you actually feel like you're there, and it just creates an environment that is just fun, colorful, awesome environment for the students to be able to become their character.
And they really get into it. It like helps them really get into it.
Yeah.
Who they are.
And so we actually have some examples. There's some from Maestra Vargas' class. Awesome. I love that. Sorry about that. School's out. We're doing this on our prep. So. George Lopez. So they have a lot of fun. You can see their backgrounds. They don't have to be like any writing or anything. They've already done their writing. They're going to do their speaking. So it's something fun to give a little extra for their presentation. And so one thing that we're really, really conscious about, myself and Maestra Vargas, is like providing equitable classrooms, making sure that all students do not go out and spend any money. So Maestra Vargas did this really fun thing where she actually showed that all she had were these items. And it's really cool. You can see it right now. I was very impressed by this. But we don't want the kids going out there and spending money. We don't want them to spend any money, period. And so it's really neat how you can create a bunch of different costumes. So here's one costume from just these items that you saw in the background. That's amazing that she did that. That's incredible. Because that is the point. Like, we teach to a lot of students who, there's students who don't even have a place to go eat. So for us to ask them to go and buy and purchase items for themselves, that's not what we want. That's not the point of this. So just items from around the house. And look at her.
Because sometimes they do pick people and they look at a photo and they're like, there's no way, I don't have this. Like, I don't have a sword. I don't have this fancy costume. And like, that's not what it's about. It's just you becoming the person and like their essence. Yeah. And so that was just kind of something that I did to show them with a t-shirt, a sweater, some foil, and a belt. It's a paper. I was able to do 3 different costumes. And something else that
so much.
You can. And something else that I do is like, I'll have students write out what they think they want for their costume. And I'll say, okay, put a star next to the things that you already have. And, you know, highlight the things that you need from me. And so what I've done in the past is, you know, our community of our school is so supportive. I'll send out a thing and I'll say, does anybody have these items? And sometimes you can get like, people will have things from Halloween costumes, from theater productions, or they know somebody that has things, and you can get different items that students might not normally have access to, and then they just make these really elaborate contributions to the Rebeldes y Revolucionarios, and it's really awesome.
But it really goes to show, I mean, you can do a lot with just a little bit. You don't need very much. So the presentation day, everybody can do it differently. I've done it a certain way. I did it as a final with Spanish 3. However, it was more of a Spanish speaker class wherever I taught at Gridley High School. And most of the students were Spanish speaking, and they were really advanced Spanish students. So I did it where I split half the class, and the other half, so one half was watching, the other half was presenting, and they would just walk around and they would watch those presentations, and they were filling out a little form, which I think we actually have in the folders, right? Just very, very simple questions. I'm not really sure where we have it, but it's in there. It's in the last part of presentación. So the person will just walk around listening to the presentation, and it's just a go. That person gets to act, sing, dance. I had a ballerina actually do a ballerina like showcase. I have had singers, I had guitarists, I've had all kinds of different presentations, but it's not just a presentation, it's they fully become and tell me their whole entire life because they are that person. And so I'm just popping in, watching these students perform, and we just did it, and they walked around, and the students would view these presentations, and then we'd flip-flop. I think I actually did mine over 2 days, because it was final schedule, and so and then all the kids at the end of the day wanted to bring their costumes back, and we did like a wax museum at the very end, but I think I did mine over 2 days. It was a while ago when I did this. But you can present in a bunch of different ways. I'm not sure how yours was.
So the first one I did was the style CLTA, which was basically we had 6 presentations per day. So those 6 students would come in costume and they'd have a spot in the classroom, and I think we had some outside too, and the rest of the class was in small groups and they rotated. So the student presenting actually had to give their presentation 6 times. And we did it over the span of a week, and then for the day of the final, everybody came back in costume, and we did like a party wax museum kind of thing, and it was really fun. But I've also done the galeria style where it's half and half. So it just depends on what you're comfortable with, the time that you have. Sometimes it is kind of challenging if I present on day 1 and then I have to bring my costume again. You know, it can get, the kids had a blast, so it wasn't really too big of an ask. But doing a half and half presentation, it is kind of nice because then you do the mannequin challenge after, and it's just a really fun way to wrap up the school year or the semester. One year when I did this was the year that we got closed down and had to do it. I think we had started it and then we got shut down, or we were going to start it. And so what I asked my students to do was a different approach as far as the wax museum went, and I gave them a choice board. And so they had different ways of being able to become the person and show me that they did the research. The choice board is in the Google folder. I don't know why our hyperlink isn't working.
If I minimize, make it.
Not anymore. Because there's too many other things. But anyways, so the choice board just gave the students an opportunity, like they could do a foto diario, and they had to take pictures of themselves in the days of certain events and write about it. They could make a podcast. They could, here it is, examples of final. And then here you'll have access to some of the different types of things that students did with what they had. So here's a podcast. Since we were in quarantine, they could pretend like they were the Rebelde Revolucionario making a video for their fans based on being in quarantine. Reenact an interview. This kid reenacted a scene of Maria Felix, and it was hilarious, and it was the best thing I've ever seen.
I remember that.
So, you know, the kids had a lot of fun with just the different. So it really just depends. If you would rather do something like this, or in addition, it really is just open to whatever works best for you and for your style of teaching and your classes. But don't forget to do the reto maniquí, because it's so much fun. You have everybody in costume. You have them in positions of like whatever it is that they're doing, or just kind of being silly. And we let our students pick the song, right? We didn't use the traditional song, and they have so much fun watching it. And so, since it's kind of awkward to watch videos on video, these are in the slideshow right here, so you can watch them if you like. But the students have a blast. They get to learn about people that made a huge impact on our world that they might not learn about in other classes. And it's just a lot of fun.
It was a really good way to end the school year. The kids loved it.
Yeah. So thank you if you stayed this long. We love you. We appreciate you. Thank you. We know it's not easy to do these kinds of things on a digital way. So maybe we'll get to do it again next time. I don't know. Gracias. Adios.